Hello everyone, I'm Colin Simpson from the TELedvisors Network. Welcome to our first webinar for 2021. Today we're going to take a little bit of a look at MS Teams for teaching and for the TELedvisors community and have a fast, slow chat. So I'm just going to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which many of us are meeting today. In my case, it's the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and I'd like to pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. Just if you are not familiar with the TELedvisors Network, we are a community of practitioners made up of people working as education technologists, learning designers, academic developers, and people in a host of similar roles, because there are at least 40 or 50 different titles of people doing this kind of work. Okay, moving on to me, I guess. So obviously we've seen how Teams can be used in an educational context, and now we're going to talk a little bit about actually what we might do with it in the TELedvisors community itself. So we started in 2017 with 4 main aims. They were a little bit wordy, but you can basically kind of boil those down to staying informed about what's happening in the sector, advocating for us as professionals and experts, researching and developing what we do and how we do it, and just providing a broader sort of support system for who we are. As part of that, we decided that it would be useful to have a community platform that we might sort of all live on, and we chose Moodle. Specifically, we chose Moodle Cloud. So this is our Moodle Cloud environment. Hopefully you're sort of fairly familiar with that. One thing that is worth noting is up in the top right corner, in the bit where we've got how many users we're allowed to have, that is chock-a-block. We are at 500 users, which is fantastic as a community. But this, among some other things, has sort of prompted our investigation of, well, okay, what do we do now? So some of the benefits of using Moodle Cloud: it's got a pretty good set of features, it's stable, it's supported, it's been affordable. Moodle has actually been quite generous in subsidising our usage of this platform. So I am very grateful to the Moodle organisation. Lets us showcase our work and our practices because it is an LMS, and that's where we spend a certain amount of time. It's relatively intuitive, and it does have a nice kind of open source community ethos that sort of fits with, you know, some of what we're trying to achieve. There are some challenges. Over the years, we've sort of noticed that while there is a fairly active and engaged sort of community presence, certainly some people just never log in. They'll join up, they'll have a look, they're happy to get the messages that we send out, but they don't go to the Moodle Cloud site. And in the feedback that we're getting, it's like, Moodle's a bit clunky, I don't know how to use it, I'm not familiar with it. And that's all very fair and accurate. There are some limits on customization because this is a vanilla, out-of-the-box, what you see is what you get sort of version of Moodle. So you don't get the benefit of using all of the plugins and the LTIs and changing the themes and doing all of the other bits and pieces. Similarly, there's a pretty small capacity for file storage. So if we're wanting to share resources with people, it's a little challenging. Again, we've been hitting our membership limits. And one of the things we've been realising recently is it'd be nice to actually have more opportunities to work with the other SIGs, the other special interest groups that are part of SQLite, and just generally the wider SQLite community as well. So because we had nothing better to do last year in the COVID era, we started to go through a process of looking at, well, okay, what do we actually need from a platform? Now, this was done in conjunction with the Escalate executive and the leaders of the other SIGs. I am just that, yeah, we probably should have reached out more to the community, to the TELedvisors community specifically, and I apologise for that, and I think that was an oversight. My excuse will be just that, you know, COVID and stuff, and we were just trying to do all of the things at once. But yeah, so these were some of the things that we started to look at. Well, you know, we want a kind of a semi-private space so that we can have, you know, confidential conversations, or, you know, feel that, you know, things can be kept in-house to a degree. But we also want, you know, the ability to see things, and we need to be able to, you know, contact people and share files. And anyway, basically went through a process. There are a lot of iterations of this, and this was also, you know, drawing on what the other various SIGs sort of saw themselves as needing in a platform, what Escalate needed, yada, yada, yada. Went through, did an evaluation of Teams. WordPress has a little platform called P2. Mighty Networks is another thing that we evaluated. And by a nose, Teams came out ahead. Which is where we are now. So essentially, what we're looking at doing is kicking the tires, just having a look at Teams, seeing whether this is a platform that can actually support the activities of this group. I refer back to the initial aims, and that's probably, you know, it's been 3 or 4 years. It's probably a good time for us to think about what our purpose is, how we want to go about it, and whatever else. But that's a conversation that I think we should have in the coming months. So we've set up a pilot space. So for those people who are sort of semi-familiar with Teams or not familiar at all, the way that Teams works is that you can have a number of instances. So an instance in Teams language, in Microsoft language, they would call a tenant. And so we've got a TELedvisors tenant that we've been using for the leadership group for, you know, probably about 2 years, I guess. Just to coordinate and sort of, you know, organise events like this and all of the other bits and pieces that we try to do. Obviously, that's not the Escalate tenant, which, you know, where all of the other Escalate groups would live. So we've set up a little pilot team on the TELedvisors tenant just to get a sense of like how this might work for us, with a goal of then moving across to a team on the Escalate tenant. So this is all a bit technical and possibly administrative. Let's have a look at basically what we get out of Teams. So it's a communication and collaboration platform. So we get this kind of interface, as Amanda has said, much more social. You've got the ability to sort of react to people's comments, reply. I'm going to whiz through these sort of fairly quickly. There is a very nice capacity for files, you know, sort of file storage, file sharing. You've got the ability to set up different channels. So this is not a million miles away from Slack in that, you know, you've basically got an individual space for different interest areas. I can see there's a bit of chat going on, but I'm sort of mindful of time, so I'm going to push through and keep an eye on the chat. So the channels sort of do allow you to compartmentalize the different things that you're doing. So these are some of the channels that we've created so far in the pilot space. A couple of other nice things that you can do is, at its heart, Teams is essentially a really fancy web browser. So you can actually embed web pages, including the existing TELedvisors Moodle cloud site, in the Teams space, which we've done. So I can still access everything in the TELedvisors Moodle cloud site from our Teams environment. We've also uploaded the Twine game that we made a couple of years ago. We've got the jobs now. We're starting to add jobs in the space, which has probably been one of the most popular features of the Moodle site. We've got a little space where people can upload their research projects they're looking for support for. You can now. So the thing that we haven't really talked about is the synchronous side. So again, as Amanda's pointed out, you can have video meetings, and being able to have this all in the same space can be really useful. You also get notifications when things are going on. The notification, there are sort of notifications in Moodle, but I think this is a little bit better. Other things that you can do is you can be having a meeting with someone while you're both working on the same document. I am pinching some stuff from the Teams training that I do because, yeah, I spend a fair amount of time talking to people at work about Teams. It's really customizable as well. So there's all of this kind of functionality that is built in that we can make use of in this space. It's worth pointing out at the moment that there are two versions of Teams. There's the enterprise or the paid version of Teams, and there's the free version of Teams. Obviously, we're using the free version of Teams because the paid version is $7 per person per month. So do your calculations on that. That's just not going to happen. This is essentially what it will look like. So over on the left here, you can see there's a number of different teams. This is what the Ascolite tenant will look like. And I'm a member of the Learning Design SIG. I'm a general member of Ascolite. So I can jump between these teams and see what's going on in any of these communities. The other thing that I can do is, obviously, you know, we use Teams at work. So I can go to the different tenants that I'm a part of to see what's going on in those various teams. It's not perfect. Sometimes it'll make you log in 3 times and you're going, why is that? But this is one of the things that we need to review in deciding whether we want to go forward with this or not. So the next steps, we're testing it. We have still got the Moodle Cloud site for the next year. So if you are an advisor, if you're working in this field as an ed tech, learning designer, academic developer, whatever, the same thing, you know, that relates to being in the Moodle Cloud site, please get in touch with us. We did send out messages inviting people to join Teams. The odds are that if you're in this group, if you're in this webinar, you're probably already in. But if you're not, let us know and we can add you to the team.